So, Ryan, let's move on to this Prince Kollie situation. Obviously, we talked a little bit about it earlier. I want to just address it now. This should not be a shock to anyone that is – it's definitely not a surprise to anyone on the message board, and it should be a shock to anyone that listens to this show. We have hinted about this for a while. What I've said on the message board, all I've said is this. There's a reason we don't talk about Prince Kollie. There's a reason we don't ever say – when we talk about linebacker next year, there's a reason I never mention Prince Kollie unless somebody asks about him. Yep. Because this has been known for a while. There's a reason he wasn't at the practices that we saw. There, and they say injuries and all. I'm sure he had some injuries, but like this was never going to be. Like, he started off in spring ball. I was told, Ryan, what would you say about a month before spring ball started? I told you, I was like, yeah, he's leaving. And how I knew that is he was telling all of his teammates that he was leaving. He was going to transfer to Vanderbilt. That's what he's telling his teammates.
I was very surprised that he went through a lot of spring ball in
He
general.
didn't go through much of spring ball. He was hurt early. He was hurt early in spring ball.
Gotcha.
So, I'm not. This isn't a surprise, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And it would be easy to say, oh, he's getting pushed by younger players, and he was. I mean, that was part of it. Similar to Lorenzo Styles. Yeah, he had battled some injuries, but I think a lot of it was I just don't know that Prince ever connected with the current staff
right
the way he did the previous staff. He was very close with Nick Lazinski, very close with Clark Lee during the recruitment process. And I just don't know that he ever felt like he got a shot at Notre Dame. No, I think he did. Look, Prince did some nice things in limited minutes last year as a linebacker, but he just wasn't a guy that to me showed me. He started to show it a little bit late in this first year, a little bit, but he just never took that jump from an instinctive standpoint. And he's small. He was down about 210 pounds last year. So I just don't know if Prince was ever going to be a factor linebacker. Yeah. Now, here's where this is a miss or a loss. This is a big loss on special teams. Prince was a very good special teams player. Obviously, he had the scoop and score, well, I guess the catch and score against Clemson last year, but he also blocked the kick against Stanford. He was a very good special teams player. Now, the good news is Notre Dame has a mess of freshman and sophomore linebackers, every bit as talented as he is, but bigger. So I think they're going to be okay. It's a loss because, Ryan, it's like this, man. This is what drives me nuts sometimes. Well, it's fine. They've got this guy. And I'm like, yes, that's true. But wouldn't you rather have that guy, and Prince Kollie? I mean, right. That's my whole thing is like, so it's like to dismiss it as if it's nothing because, if the light ever went on, Prince has got a chance to be able to help you in some areas. But it's just one of those things. My point, however, is I do believe they're at least in a position where this isn't going to sting. As long as they don't go through a rash of injuries, this isn't going to sting. The freshman and sophomore linebackers have looked phenomenal this spring, and they've taken every bit of advantage of him being out. Yep. And honestly, he was going to, even if he was healthy and stayed this spring, was completely bought in, he was going to have a hard time holding off Nolan Ziegler and Jalen Sneed. He was. That's just a fact. Because they're just more natural football players. Nolan's a much more natural football player, and Jalen's more explosive than Prince is.
Yep.
I
mean, if you saw the blue gold game too, I mean, it's hard not to get excited about what you saw from Jay Nosbury and Drake Bowen, and even Preston Zinter was balling in that game, man. He had a couple of really nice plays.
And he had a rough spring. I mean, he did not have a great spring, but he ended the spring very well.
Yes.
Because he wasn't thinking. He was just running.
He was just going, man. Just going. Yeah.
And he looked good, man. So you're like, look, there's 3 freshman linebackers that have a chance to be. I said this in my post-game breakdown. Every one of those freshmen and sophomores, to me, look like a guy that can start and play for Notre Dame.
Yes.
Not just be, that guy's a good rotation player. Just start and be a player. Jaden Osbury is a dude. Drake Bowen is a dude. Preston Zinter showed me some really good things in the game. And Nolan Ziegler and Jalen Sneed, we've already talked a ton about. So you don't ever want to lose a talented athlete. And from everything I've ever heard about Prince, he's a good kid. Good. Players like him and all that. I just don't know if the fit was ever as good for him as it, as he wanted it to be, because he came in that transition where, Brian Kelly leaves and, Prince is a freshman and then new defensive staff comes in and the guys that recruited him to Notre Dame aren't here anymore. And especially Nick Lazinski, who was a great recruiter for Notre Dame as a linebackers coach, linebacker GA. Kids loved Nick Lazinski. I just think, and sometimes it just happens. Look, everybody's always looking to blame when kids transfer. In today's era, especially, sometimes it's just we did anything wrong. Just this kid just decided another place was better for him. And I think in this particular instance, that's the case. I've never, like some of the things I've heard about Lorenzo Styles, you're like, boy, yikes, that kid's you're going to be better off. Right.
Yeah.
And with Prince, I've never heard anything like that. I mean, teammates liked him, got along well with him. I don't think there was bad attitude problems. I just don't know if he was ever super comfortable here. And then I think the injuries kind of hurt too. And now I think he'll go closer to home and play for coaches that he has a much longer relationship with. So I wish him all the best. I like Prince. I hope he can stay healthy if he goes to Vandy. I hope he can stay healthy and has a chance to fit and play really well there. I really do.
He's really talented kid, man.
Yeah,
really
very talented athlete for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I've never heard anything bad about him as a young man either. I have nothing but good things about him. So I'm hoping he can go there and it works out for him. There's no doubt about that. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that one a little bit and address that before we dive into the mailbag. So, again, I'm not happy that Prince is gone at all, but they're going to be fine. And that's not a shot at Prince. It's just you're in this is where you want to be as a program. It's more about the health of the depth chart than it is when I say they're going to be fine without that guy. He wasn't, that's not what I'm saying at all. Yeah. It's just that if you're going to lose a guy, this is a position where you're in a good place to lose him because of just so much young talent that's coming down the pike. Now they're going to get even more reps because they don't have to worry about splitting reps with him at any of those positions. So they'll be okay. They'll be okay. Just like if they happen to lose a guy at running back, they're going to be fine.
Yes, they will.
They're going to be fine. Safety, not so much.
Yes.
Offensive tackle, not so much.
And you want to get a point with the talent acquisition and development perspective that pretty much every spot you'd be like, you can maintain this, right? It's like if you're losing a Bear Alexander doesn't hurt that much for a Georgia team, right? Like that's where you want to get. And Notre Dame's obviously isn't there at every single position, but to your point, Brian, linebacker is one where you can weather that storm a little bit because you have recruited at such a high level at that position.
Absolutely. So, Ryan, that wraps up this portion of the show. Obviously, we're going to have a mailbag coming up next. We do have a lot of questions that we'll get to here, but I want to thank everybody for being with us so far. Hit that like button, everybody. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Share this podcast. Don't go anywhere because we're about to get in the mailbag, and there's some really good questions about a lot of these topics. You can throw in more questions now if you want to get to it, but we're going to get to that next, Ryan. But, hey, I want to remind y'all, if you want to listen to the Lucky Lefty podcast on the podcast app, if you want to listen to CFP All-America, if you want to listen to a lot of the things that we're doing, that we're going to be doing here on CFP Nation, I'm going to have a show here, a college football show on CFP Nation at some point in time soon. We are talking about, we're working on the details out, but we're talking about possibly having a live show for the draft on Thursday night. We're still working on the details. That will be on CFP Nation on the YouTube channel. So you're definitely going to subscribe to CFP Nation on the YouTube channel. And then, of course, on that platform apps, you can find it. If you type in CFP Nation Blue Wire, you can find it that way. You can also find it on your Apple Podcasts and Spotify podcasts as well.